Hi, everyone, and welcome to this latest session of Ask Dr. Sharon. I'm Sharon Walt, the Hashimoto Health Coach, and I'm delighted that you're joining me either here live or you're watching the replay. So welcome again. The reason behind the Ask Dr. Sharon sessions is to answer any questions that you might have about autoimmune conditions in general and Hashimoto's in particular. And I get a lot of my questions from my clients, from those that are in my membership group, and also occasionally from my family and friends. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, one of the most common questions that I get asked is, well, why do I still have symptoms even though my labs are normal? Well, this is a really common frustration for many people with Hashimoto's. People can experience ongoing symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, hair loss, pain, even when their thyroid lab results fall within the normal range. Now, it's important to understand that normal lab ranges are based on average results of an asymptomatic population. It may not reflect the optimal range for what you need for your health and well-being. There's very real difference between being asymptomatic, so not showing any obvious symptoms, and being healthy. Okay. And this can turn out to be a real problem. I've had a lot of clients tell me they've been to their GP and they said, well, your thyroid markers are all okay, but they're still experiencing all of these symptoms. And it makes them wonder, well, is this all in my head? And I can't even tell you the number of people who have been prescribed antidepressive and anti-anxiety medication because their lab markers are okay, but they still got symptoms. And the assumption is if your lab markers are okay, then there's nothing physically wrong with you, then it must be something else going on. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Okay, now I am going to go into a little bit of a deep dive about this, but before we do, let's just talk a little bit more about some of the common thyroid markers that you can have tested. Now, bear in mind that your GP may not prescribe the whole thyroid panel. In fact, most of the time they will only rely on one, and that is TSH. So that is your thyroid stimulating hormone. It's the primary marker, but it very, very rarely gives you anywhere close to the full picture of what your thyroid health is. It's not even a thyroid hormone. It's released by the pituitary gland in response to detected levels of the thyroid hormones T4 and T3 in the blood. Now, I just want to mention here that it's detected what's in the blood. Now, your blood is only the transportation mechanism. Your hormones are activated in the cells. And there can be a big difference between what's going on in the cells and what's being transported in the blood. Okay, so that's your first thing right there. Okay, T4 and T3, these are the main thyroid hormones. T4 is essentially a storage hormone, and T3 is generally the active hormone. And in order to get to T3, it has to be actively converted from T4. Now, there are a number of situations where this conversion can be impaired, and if it is, then you are going to be very low in T3. Now, this may not show up in your TSH lab markers, okay? Now, another marker is called reverse T3 or RT3, and this is what happens when there is a problem with the conversion, or it's converted to T3, but then some other stimulants, some other situations such as chronic high stress, which is producing a lot of cortisol, that will actually convert T3 into reverse T3. Now, that conversion cannot go the other way. So it essentially blocks that T3, which means it's inactive and you're going to show a shortage of T3. So not available. It won't show up in the blood, and it also won't be available to the cells. And then we can look at your thyroid antibodies, TPO and TG. And even if TSH is normal, you can still have elevated antibodies that these are going to continue ongoing autoimmune activities that in themselves can cause symptoms. So regardless of what's going on with the markers, you have all of these other functions going on in the body that can be either the trigger for the autoimmune condition, or it can be a consequence of reduced thyroid activity that are going to cause a lot of symptoms. Okay, so that was just my brief rant on what the markers can tell you. So let's look at some of the factors that can affect thyroid function despite normal lab results. So the first one is inflammation and the autoimmune activity that I briefly touched on. So as most of you know, Hashimoto's is primarily an autoimmune condition, which means the body's immune system is mistakenly attacking the thyroid gland. So even if thyroid hormone levels are within the normal range, the immune system can continue damaging thyroid cells, leading to ongoing symptoms. The chronic inflammation resulting from this autoimmune attack can manifest in various ways, such as joint pain, brain fog, fatigue, digestive issues, even when hormone levels seem stable. So we just talked about inflammation, ongoing inflammation, and your levels can still be looking fairly normal. Now, the antibodies that I talked about, TPO and TG, are markers of autoimmune activity, and these indicate that the immune system is still active and contributing to continued symptoms. And if they remain high, it suggests that the processes are still at work, even if TSH is in range. Now, one of the other factors that are going to affect, and some of these are all going to be intermingled. So it's not like one goes directly to the other. These will all kind of interact in kind of a soup, so to speak. So one of the other big factors that can affect symptoms, but not necessarily your hormone levels, or at least those that are being detected, are things like your nutritional deficiencies. Now, if you have Hashimoto's, you're almost always going to have some type of nutritional deficiency because the reduced thyroid hormone can reduce the amount of digestive enzymes that are being secreted and then used. So even if you're eating a healthy diet, if you can't digest and absorb the nutrients, you are going to have a deficiency. And some of the deficiencies are like selenium, zinc, iron, vitamin D. These ones are critical for proper thyroid function, but there's a number of other ones that are very, very common. So your B vitamins, you can be deficient in your B vitamins, in magnesium, and those are going to have some quite sustained ongoing issues in your overall health. Okay. Now, just specifically, I just want to touch on the importance of some of these nutrients. So selenium, it's critical for converting T4 into T3. Okay, so if you don't have enough of it, you're not going to be making enough usable thyroid hormone. Zinc also plays a role in thyroid hormone production, and iron can impair, low iron anyways, can impair thyroid function and contribute to fatigue. So those are just some of the, the small number of deficiencies that can have quite a big effect. Okay. Now, the next factor is your overall gut health. So poor gut function, and this is when we call gut function, we're talking about leaky gut or impaired permeability of the gut lining, or dysbiosis of the gut. So that means that the balance of the bacteria is out. And this can interfere with thyroid hormone conversion because the gut plays a central role in, in immune health and metabolism, but it also can affect, as I said, thyroid hormone conversion because about 20% of the conversion of T4 to T3 happens in the gut. Okay, so if your gut health is compromised, that's going to be compromised as well. In terms of immune health, if you've got impaired intestinal permeability or leaky gut, the lining of the gut becomes damaged, and that allows toxins, microbes, undigested food particles, that leaks into the bloodstream. Then your immune system gets doing its job and starts fueling some inflammation. Okay, and you can be feeling that all over the body. So just your gut health, that is really, really important. And one of the pre-existing conditions for Hashimoto's or any autoimmune condition is the fact that you've got a problem with your gut lining, okay? Usually as a result of gut dysbiosis. So you've already got a problem right there in some of the conversion processes, but also in generating or triggering a lot of the symptoms that you're feeling. And again, a lot of the markers, the thyroid hormone markers, are not going to be, those levels are not going to be reflected in this. Okay. Another one is the status of your adrenal glands. So chronic stress is going to impact the adrenal glands. These are responsible for producing cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So ongoing stress can lead to a situation where cortisol levels become imbalanced, so they can either be too high or too low. And this is going to disrupt the body's ability to regulate energy, your weight, and your mood, but also it's going to impair the conversion of T4 to T3. Okay. Addressing your adrenal health, you need to look at stress reduction. So either removing yourself from the source of the stress or learning to adapt to it better. You can use what we call adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or rhodiola. Proper sleep and balancing your blood sugar can also significantly improve some of the symptoms. Now, one of the other things is your thyroid does not operate on its own. There are a number of other organs that are all interconnected. So we'd already mentioned the pituitary. So there's the thyroid, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the adrenals, and also into this mix too are a lot of the sex hormones as well. So your testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen levels all are in this mix. And if one is affected, there's going to be a flow-on effect to all of the other organs, okay? Estrogen dominance, so that is the balance of estrogen to progesterone is off, can interfere with thyroid hormone. Estrogen increases the amount of something called thyroid binding globulin, so TBG, and it's a protein that binds thyroid hormones, making them unavailable for use. So even if your total thyroid hormone levels are normal, the available free hormone may be low because of estrogen dominance, and that's going to lead to symptoms. Now, balancing hormones can be a little bit tricky. Number one, you've got to be able to look for the hormone levels. But you can also, once you have that information, you can try adjusting it through diet, lifestyle. Sometimes some bioidentical hormone replacement can help improve as well. Okay, the next factor I want to talk about very briefly here is just your exposure to toxins. Certain environmental toxins can disrupt thyroid function, okay, which are going to result in lingering symptoms even when the lab markers are normal. So things like heavy metals, that's like mercury, lead, cadmium, can interfere. Then we have another group of chemicals called endocrine disruptors. So that's like BPA, so found in plastics, and phthalates. And those are very, very common in a lot of our personal care products. So these are the type of products, a shampoo, conditioner, different types of soaps, anything with artificial fragrance in it. These tend to mimic hormones in the body and then imbalance them, and can disrupt our whole endocrine system, of which our thyroid is part of. Okay. And there are a number of detoxification practices that you can do. And quite frankly, I think I will discuss that in another talk, because otherwise we're just putting too much here together. So it's the interaction between the thyroid, the immune system, the gut, the adrenals, and all the other hormones. It's very, very complex. And a disturbance in any of these, as I mentioned before, will continue to cause symptoms even when the lab results are normal. So that's why it's so very, very important to adopt a holistic approach that addresses these factors through diet, lifestyle, stress management, and targeted supplementation to help bring the body back into balance. Now, but before that happens, you have to be able to understand that it's not just looking at thyroid hormone markers, which, yes, can give you some information, but that information is really limited unless you also bring in all of the symptoms that you are experiencing. Because the symptoms are going to lead you to either what the triggers are or the consequences. And all of those are going to need to be addressed in order for you to heal. Okay, that might have been a bit of a longer rant for me than normal, but it's actually, it's an issue that I run into all the time, where people say, well, my labs are normal, I should be okay, but I really feel like crap. Well, there's a reason for that. You are not healthy. There are other things going on. The lab markers are just inadequate to describe the whole picture of your health. Okay. Well, that said, if you have some questions about your health, please get in touch. I'm just going to put the banner up now. Okay, so if you go to that link, and what I'm going to do here is also put it in the comment section. You can book a free 20-minute consult with me, and we just can discuss what's really concerning you, and I can give you some advice on what your next best steps are. Okay, so if you've got some questions, don't hesitate, get in touch. It's not a sales call. I really do want to try and point you in the right direction. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Okay, bye for now.